Hello, and welcome to Career Pathways with Adeola Kagho. This is the podcast that brings you real stories, honest reflections, and transformative insights to help you navigate your careers with clarity, with courage, and purpose. So, if you're just starting out, or already reinventing your path, or you're seeking global impacts, this is your safe space to learn, relearn, and ignite possibilities. I'm so excited today because of the guest that I have. But before I introduce her, I remain your host, Adeola Kagho. So, like I said, I'm excited today. I'm so excited because of the guest that I have. She is Mrs. Folake Adeniyi-Adeleye. Her story is one that is so impactful. A lot of leadership lessons, entrepreneurship, and also reinvention. And I trust that we would learn a lot from her today. Folake Adeniyi-Adeleye is a globally recognized executive coach, keynote speaker, and leadership strategist with over 2 decades of experience shaping executive careers and corporate leadership. Her 25-year career spans management, consulting, oil and gas, telecoms, and IT cloud technology, where she has led high-impact initiatives in global multinationals such as Celtel, Zain, that's now Airtel, Microsoft, and Oracle. She was the immediate past regional sub-Saharan African HR director at Oracle. She's partnered with a lot of global leaders. She's reinvented her career in the coaching practice, which she founded in 2019. She currently helps senior executives master their reinvention, executive presence, leadership transitions, and to be more impactful in the C-suite and board level roles. She speaks at a lot of organizations and institutions such as Total Energies, Oracle, NHS UK, KPMG, Stanbic IBTC. Beyond coaching, she's a board advisor for Teach for Nigeria and a former executive council member of WIMBIZ. She's passionate about tech, education, employability, and empowering women. She mentors actively both the current and next generation of leaders. That's such a powerful profile. You're welcome to Career Pathways with Adeola
Thank
Kagho.
you, Adeola. Thank you so much, Adeola. It is so good to be here. We are finally here. We've been wanting to do this for a while. You and I have come such a long way. And I'm really looking forward to sharing with your audience today a lot of what I've learned along the way, so that in terms of their own career pathway, they don't need to reinvent the wheel. Absolutely. And hopefully there are pearls and gems of wisdom that they can take away.
Absolutely. I am looking forward to those pearls that will be shared today. So let's dive straight into it, beginning with your early career. So you studied microbiology, but somehow found yourself in HR. Can you tell us a bit about how that shift happened?
It's funny. I think the shift actually is still happening. But interestingly, medicine is what I actually wanted to study. But you know how it was in those days with JAMB. You get into university and they're like, oh, your score qualifies you for microbiology or biochemistry. Go and do that first and then you can change later. But the real shift happened when I did my internship. You know that couple of weeks you spend in between two semesters in your 3rd or 4th year. I did my internship at the then Lever Brothers. I feel old when I say that.
Lever Brothers.
The then Lever Brothers, which is Unilever today. And I had the opportunity not just to sit in a lab. I got there on my first day and they told me, well, that's your desk, that's your microscope, you're going to be doing some work here. And I looked at that. I'm like, this is going to be my office. I'm not going to interact with people. I'm not going to see anything. I'm like, I went crying back to the person my father had given me a letter to, who actually then became like like an uncle, really. And what he then did was he gave me the opportunity to be like a management trainee within the organization. handed me over to the marketing manager and said, you know what, let this lady just go through our organization so she can then see how organizations run and what she wants to do. I then became interested in how relationships took place in the organization, the dynamics of managing one another, the leader or manager at the time, managing others, how people related and what came out of that relationship, how passionate they were about their business and why they were so passionate about it, especially marketing at the time, because they were also the ones, marketing the different products of Unilever. Of Lever Brothers at that time. So I became interested in how people were managed and how you could get the best out of people and why would some people be so passionate more than others. That was where the shift really happened. For then saying, you know what, I want to know more about people management. But then because I spent time in marketing, if you asked me once I went back to school, so what do you want to do? I stopped saying microbiology. I would say I want to be in marketing. I want to be in marketing. And that was actually, it was in marketing that I got my first role. Not in HR.
In human resources,
but it was in a strategic consulting firm. It was Philips Consulting at the time, but I was actually brought in to market a proprietary product they had just acquired. Many people don't know that.
Okay, I also didn't know that. So how did you then get into human resources?
Very good question. Because it was Philips Consulting we offered a plethora of products. There were different groups. So even though I was brought in to help market a product, at that time it was Thomas International, we had to learn a bit about, of course you had to know the product that you were selling. But guess what? The product was and is still so versatile that you can plug it into different areas of people management, hiring, team development, succession planning. So when those kind of jobs came up within the organization, a Thomas International expert was always called to plug in the product. But we also had to learn what was going on in terms of what we wanted to deliver to the client and the outcome that the client was expecting. So at that time I got more interested in, there's that value chain, bringing in an individual, developing them, onboarding, succession, learning and development. This is interesting. I could get used to this, when the opportunity came up to set up the HR, like the human capital management consulting arm of Philips Consulting. Of course, we practically metamorphosed into that department, and we started consulting without the Thomas International product, if that was what the client desired. So I started in HR consulting after that whole marketing bit, and then later transitioned into HR operations.
So what I'm hearing is the opportunity that you had, the exposure to an organization very early in your career helped you quickly realize the areas that you were interested in, such as the people aspect. And even though your initial opportunity was marketing, somehow you were still able to think that, okay, we do this in marketing, but could I translate this also into people?
Correct.
So,
correct.
Yeah,
That's
correct. It definitely then means that early exposure to organizations could then help the younger people quickly determine what the parts that they would really like to go.
Very much so. And I'll give you an example, Adeola. When we had, so I quickly learned that when it came to jobs around learning and development, around curriculum development, around sitting with the business, devising their strategy, I was more drawn to, as opposed to bring out the Excel sheet, we're going to do compound benefits, we're going to look at, how Hay manages these grade levels and things like that. A lot of the things around mathematics, payroll, benefits at that time wasn't so attractive
To you.
to me. So you are right. I quickly knew, okay, now we were encouraged to build across board in terms of that whole employee life cycle and value chain. However, you are right. I quickly picked the favorites.
Yeah.
And I knew where I was much comfortable. I was so much more comfortable.
Yeah. Okay, so we go straight into the next question. Your career has spanned marketing, human resources, entrepreneurship, coaching, board advisory. You've done so much, but started with microbiology. So if you had to choose a course that you are going to study again today, with the benefit of hindsight, knowing what you know today, and also bearing in mind how AI is changing the landscape of work, what would you then have studied?
Oh, wow. It's easy to say that looking at today, cheating a bit and looking at
because
today,
now
maybe it would have been psychology or organizational behavior or something like that, or maybe even psychotherapy, just getting to know how the human mind works and helping people really fulfill their potential, be that ammunition that help people fulfill their potential to the fullest.
Yeah.
But you know what? Having said that, Adeola, there are no regrets. There are no regrets because starting out in science then really helped me come with a more scientific approach to work. Data-driven, being evidence-based, look at benchmarks, very quickly to say, okay, what works where. That came from a scientific, background. And you've talked about the different things that I've done. First of all, I have a personal philosophy that we are not one person. Yeah. My Christian faith allows me to believe that there's so much value, so much treasure on the inside of me, and therefore I can be multipotented.
Yeah.
I can do, I don't have to be a jack of all, but once I know that, this is my gift as I have evolved. So a lot of what you've talked about, my different roles, have been through evolution. And then you talk about the advent of AI. We hear it said a lot, and I subscribe to it as well, that it's not about AI replacing our jobs. The people what will replace you is the people that know how to use AI. And you and I have talked about that quite a few times, and it is really helping AI now to enhance my role as board advisor, as executive and transition and reinvention coach, and as a consultant as well, and allow HR to do that. And I know that you're gonna, there will be all that. I'll answer that
so,
more as well.
To the young person out there who's looking at your path and really wants to end up being like you would recommend something like psychology, especially if the interest is to really get into the minds of people.
Correct.
But then
Correct.
again, studying
Correct.
science was also really good for you, because that
Definitely.
really formed the foundation for you. And I mean, in terms of AI, I also agree with you along the lines of psychology, psychotherapy, because these are really the human skills that AI will be unable to replace. So, for the young professional or the upcoming listening to us, those are areas to start considering, areas that AI will be unable to replace. I also did find that you, during the course of your career, obtained a lot of certifications. Some are human resources and some are even outside of the human resources field. And there's a lot of debate around whether these certifications are really important or necessary. So from your experience or your journey, what would you say about acquiring certifications?
That's an interesting one, Adeola. Acquiring for the sake of it, I would not necessarily subscribe to that.
Okay.
Acquiring to build credibility and impact, that is definitely something to consider. That's the way to go. So you want to get your foot in the door, and the competition in your area, for example, HR, is stiff. Of course, with the GPHR, I'm not sure what they have today, Jola. At that time, was GPHR, CIPM also had its own courses, SHRM also had its own courses. What that does is that it builds credibility to say, you've gone over and beyond to want to be taken seriously as a HR practitioner, right? But acquiring it for the sake of it, you ask, again, you're not one person, so why spend all your time acquiring it if there's something else down the line? Let me give you an example. You're doing HR now. You're in middle management. But what you really want to do is sell clothes. You want to make and sell clothes. You want to be a franchise owner for the big luxury brands, be they local or global. Are you going to spend all your years trying to acquire certification? You see what I mean? Certification. I would say acquire the certifications that make you credible, bring you into the room, and then start to build your competence. Because if the certification gets you through the door, it is the competence that's going to sustain you in the role.
Wow, powerful. If the certification gets you into the room, it's the competence that keeps you there. I also did pick that you were saying, look, you need to clearly define your goal, because that then helps you know what certifications you need to acquire. So, and that was where you had that example around the clothes. If you are going to, if it's entrepreneurship you want to go into at the end of the day, then why spend your energy, money, resources on something that's not really going to be adding to the goal that you would want to achieve? All right, thank you so much for that. All right, so I want to go into generalists versus specialists. There's been a lot of debate. And HR is one of those fields that really allows us to either be generalists or be specialists. And I think that it'll be good for you to help us sort of lend your voice to this debate. And luckily, you have been in both generalist and specialist roles. Is one better than the other?
Such an interesting question. One gets it all the time, even as I mentor mid to senior level HR practitioners, even up to the C-suite level, they still ask that question. I would say one is not better than the other. Okay. It really depends on what you are looking for. It depends on what outcome you want in your career. Having said that, early in your career, it is good to pick an area to specialize in. Okay. So that no matter what, as an HR practitioner, it stands you out when you have deepened your skill in something, right? In a particular area. So early in HR, I started out in learning and development. I cut my teeth as well in organizational development. But I was always interested in what the business was discussing. I wasn't satisfied with just plug and play. Oh, it's time for this training. Oh, let's manage it. Let's develop curriculum for this, blah, blah, blah. I loved that as well. But I wanted to be in the room. What are these guys discussing? How do I know my training is making an impact? How do I know that, I'm contributing something, right? So not only did I develop learning and development, competence, but guess what? Because I also learned to ask the right questions about the business. I remember then in an oil and gas company I worked for, the COO always wanted me in the room. Said, Your own HR is a bit different too. Oh yeah, come and sit down. Let me know what you're hearing, and we would debrief after, before he then started inviting me officially into the so I went from observing to actually contributing, because I was asking the right questions. I was asking business related questions, and that then started to take me more into that generalist side of things. Exactly. And by the way, leadership is generalist by default.
Absolutely.
Because you must be able to contribute enterprise-wide, into the business.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is early in career, it is quite good to specialize in something. As you progress in your career, then it will be good to broaden, especially if you're looking at leading or management roles in the future.
Correct.
Because that then helps you able to really contribute to the business, especially as an HR professional.
Yeah, you put it aptly. Thank you.
To some professionals who are not interested in management or leadership. However, they still want to build meaningful careers. Do you see that it is possible to really be successful and progress your careers without even being in management or leadership roles?
Jella, that's a tricky one. And as an HR practitioner, up to C-suite level, I was dealing with that on a regular basis. Where individuals, as they grew in their careers, would say, but I don't want to manage people. I don't want to be a leader. I always say something to leaders about what I refer to as, and of course we've seen it in literature many times, the context of culture. You cannot change the context of the culture, the organizational culture that you are in. So is it a culture that rewards leadership over specialty, or is it the one that rewards them equally? I had the privilege of working with organizations where both were rewarded equally. So I would say it should be, if you choose one over the other, the specialty part, for example, let it be more by design as opposed to by default. So design meaning you look at the organization, the compensation, the line of development, is it still worth it at the end of the day, where you do not manage people but you can grow. However, if it is an organization where leadership is seen and taken more seriously over that individual contributor line, then you've got to ask yourself more questions. Am I satisfied to be left alone, sometimes forgotten, not given as many opportunities as the manager, as the people manager, not maybe perceived as more powerful than the people manager? So these are the things you have to ask yourself, the pros and the cons. What matters to you most? But more importantly, what is the context of culture? Where you are.
And I really like the way you've answered it, because what I'm hearing is, if you really want to progress, and that means you probably want to earn a lot more money, you want to grow in terms of your title or whatever, you need to read the organization. Very important. Completely. You need to be sure what your organization is rewarding. If your organization is rewarding being in leadership, then you might need to start considering that, because it's not going to happen for you if you then want to just remain an individual contributor. But having said that, there are organizations such as yours that actually reward both equally. And so if your aim is to remain an individual contributor and you're sure that's your goal, that's the path that you want to take, then you might have to start considering other organizations such as yours, because they actually do exist. Amazing.
That is it.
All right, so now we're going into your global and expatriate life. which a lot of people admire, but somehow it happens to be out of reach for a number of professionals, especially women. You rose to become the regional HR leader across West, East, Central Africa, and Indian Oceans. What prepared you for that kind of journey at that scale?
You know, at that time, I'll actually start by saying and acknowledging the fact that I had some really good mentors, senior colleagues that truly believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. My former boss in Celtel was the one who actually told me about that role in Microsoft. And when he first put it to me, I'm like, okay, but boss, I still call him boss till today, but boss, I was doing this wasn't, the role I was doing was locally based. You're actually, sending me a role that's regional. And he said, yeah, what's the big deal? You can do it. I'm like, okay. I read the JD again and again. I thought, okay, there isn't much here. Very generalist. Thankfully, my role in oil and gas had prepared me for that. And by the time I attended the interview, it was more about not just putting your best foot forward from a competence point of view, but relationally being seen as how you positioned yourself for the role. The other aspects that were not so specific to HR, being able to manage leaders, being able to build connection, your consulting skills in the organization, following up, maturity, all of these things came to bear and were brought to bear during the interview. But it wasn't just questions. I had to be able to demonstrate it. And I remember by the time I went through the gamut of interviews in that organization, the EMEA VP at the time, by the time he finished my interview, he was like, I like you. And I looked at him and was like, I like you too, We had built a connection. And that was so much, that was also as important as, I will give you an example today. Whilst in my consulting work, I was to help a board identify one of the HR people within the organizations. And believe it or not, having been in this job for so long, having been in HR for so long, I could tell that this person was reading from a script.
Oh.
He didn't think I would notice because he was facing the camera and looking straight at me, but I could tell that the answer, the way he was giving the answer wasn't natural.
Yeah.
Why? Because I've been through it myself, experience, So the first thing was really trust, the trust in me that I could actually do it. And then just bringing a lot of my experience to bear to say what is required in this role and taking a bet on myself, which is not what you see a lot of times today, especially with women in mid to senior level careers. You will not have 100% of the things required for the role. Yes. You will not be 100% ready for the role, for the project, for the promotion. But are you willing to take a bet on yourself? And that was exactly what happened there. So when it was time to move, I know you haven't asked me this yet, Adeola, but just in case it comes on, let me just link it. Okay. So when it was time to move from being a regional HR manager, managing West Africa, and the role for regional sub-Saharan Africa director, came up, it was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer. It's like, okay, so we're going to do this not in West Africa now. We're going to expand the region and do it a bit more. So you're talking now, okay, cultural intelligence at a different level, geographical mastery, in terms of just, the maturity to deal with people from different parts of the world, flexibility, again, your internal consulting skills and so on and so forth. It was not a difficult transition. Let's just put it that way.
I'm taking a few things away and I'll reflect them back to you. One of the things that has come up is the role of mentors. Because sometimes when this opportunity comes, or this type of opportunities come, we have a way of doubting ourselves. The imposter syndrome comes on, and our mentors are able to see some of the things that we don't see. So the role of mentors is very important. There's another one that really struck me, which is on and I read it as presence, or your ability to navigate conversations with senior people, because it looked like that showed up at your interview, and that was one of the things that made the people who were going to appoint you even be convinced that you were going to be able to do that job.
Correct.
So that's important.
Yes.
Ability to communicate with stakeholders at a certain level is critical for that kind of transition. So another one that really struck me is the fact that we don't always have to have the 100% of what is required for the job. And I mean, I hear a lot about men, whereas men will just go for it. Women remain stuck wanting to get 100% of the requirements. So yeah, I really did see that come out of what you said.
Thank you. You put it so aptly. It reminds me as well that apart from making the connection in the room, something that has always come across in the course of my career is that I appear quite confident. And today I teach, I preach, and I coach executive presence, because you can be paddling vigorously underwater,
right,
with parched throats, sweaty brows, sweaty palms, and you think that disqualifies you. No, it doesn't. It's about how you instill confidence in the person on the other side that you can get the job done.
Yeah.
Is not necessarily all that is on paper. But do you exude the confidence that helps them think, she would be good for this place. We can use her in this place. She would be good for leadership. She would be great for HR. Not just because of what you know, but how you show up. So I got that feedback later that it was just how you showed up, Folake, and I didn't even know executive presence at the time. But I knew that in the course of my career, it started to matter. In the course of my career, it became a game changer. So it was so clear that, oh my word, we don't do this a lot. Hence, people disqualifying themselves because they think, oh, because I'm feeling that way, I'm not ready. I need another credential. I need another course. No, you don't. All you need to do is position yourself properly, act confidently, and show up well.
Right. So if you're out there looking for these regional opportunities, like she has said, it might not be that you need another credential. You might just need a coach who's going to help you. A coach who's going to help you with your executive presence.
And that's exactly what happens. Middle to senior level executives up to C-suite level realize that, oh my gosh, I know this thing. Why am I not getting it out? Why are people not seeing it? Why am I being passed over? It's executive presence.
Right.
And it's not just about how you look, how you feel, but it's about how you look, how you take yourself seriously, how you appear, how you relate to others, how you manage your stakeholders, your emotional intelligence, your political capital. It's all together.
It's a lot.
But it must be taken seriously, and you must invest in it.
And it'll be very good to just work with a coach, because it's a lot.
Completely.
It's a lot,
Completely.
that it encompasses.
Yes.
Okay, so still on your expatriate life, some women, or generally people get expatriate positions, but I want to focus now on women, and some hesitate. Sometimes because of family issues, also just not wanting to do cross-border work. Are there real benefits of being an expatriate versus remaining in local roles, that if you shared with people, it will then help them to sort of counter that hesitation that they sometimes have?
I'm going to answer this in a very unconventional way. And using myself very vulnerably as an example. The first thing, Adeola, is that the decision of a marriage partner is the first and most important factor. It's not God. It's the decision of a marriage partner. Because if you don't get that right, you will not even be able to serve the God that you want to serve, right?
Absolutely.
Talking from somebody from the Christian faith. It's extremely important to be able to choose your partner well. Having said that, let's go back to expatriation and let's link it. Where the opportunities arise for expatriation, the main support you are going to get is from your spouse. The opportunity has been put in front of you. To move or not to move will depend on many things, but the most important factor is that of the support of the spouse. And I'm not talking verbal support, I'm talking support in its entirety.
Absolutely.
That's the first place that I'll start in terms of the philosophy. You've got to look at the outcome for yourself as well. What does expatriation do for you? Again, Adeola, in the context of culture, the organizational culture. Does expatriation give you the right exposure and visibility? Does it make you more promotable, and so on and so forth? Or in your organization, is just a nice to have? Be able to gauge it in terms of the outcomes that you desire. So if it brings visibility and exposure and puts you in the right line for succession, for retention, and so on and so forth, and it grows you as a professional, and you have the support of your spouse, then why not? And I say that because expatriation is not the easiest thing in the world. In HR, we make it so we glamorize it, looks so sexy and everything. However, it is a difficult. It can be a difficult transition if not properly managed.
And I think that explains the reason why people would hesitate, because of the difficulty that they see that lies ahead.
Correct.
But I really like
Correct.
how you have broken it down. You've sort of given us some guidelines to look at if that kind of opportunity comes.
Correct.
So look at what it's going to do for
Yes.
your career.
Yes.
Is it going to make you more visible, more promotable, put you in the succession line? Those are the kind of things to look at to help you make the decision. And the number one thing, you need the support of your spouse. So that was really good. Thank you so much for that. So you've worked with some of the most prestigious organizations globally, and it makes me wonder what drew you to entrepreneurship. One would think that someone who's worked with such organizations would want to remain in the corporate world till they retire.
You're right, and it's a good question. So thank you. I think staying true to myself was really the first place to start. I knew even a few years before I left, to be fair, I had hit a ceiling. Not title-wise, not compensation-wise, but fulfillment-wise. In terms of fulfillment, that wasn't happening in the role. Like I said, I said it earlier, I'm not one person. And therefore, I wanted to do more in terms of developing leaders, helping people position themselves. I wanted to coach. I wanted to see people's lives transform. And at some point in my career, I suffered a job loss as well. And I saw that it helped me reflect and to see that people did not transition so well, or when they were on the rebound, really being able to position themselves properly was an issue. Position themselves in such a way that they can instill confidence in their key stakeholders that they get the job done. That became difficult to continue to watch, and I thought, I can help transform lives, without 80% organizational maintenance, 20% on what really energized me. I needed to switch that. And once the opportunity came, and by the way, and kudos to my last employer, I did start coaching. So that means I became a careerpreneur before I transitioned into being a solopreneur.
So you were coaching
right within I was coaching whilst I had a 9 to 5. So not only was I coaching within the organization, I was also running my own practice. Of course, I had an agreement with my employer to say, okay, how are we going to manage this? No coaching on the weekend, no coaching during work hours, no coaching competition, blah, blah, blah. We came to an agreement because it was also the kind of organization where they saw that, hey, people had other ways they wanted to express themselves, and where there was no conflict, we were okay. But it still, of course, was all about my 9 to 5 at the end of the day, right? I needed more that would energize me, that would fulfill me, So yeah, making the transition wasn't so difficult. I was clear at that time as to what I wanted.
Yeah, that was really powerful, because I hear that you then got to a point where you were not really fulfilled. I mean, the reward was there, the title was there, but you wanted more, which if you stayed on, it wasn't going to allow yourself to express yourself as fully as you wanted. So it was more pursuing fulfillment and impact. And when that time came, you knew it. You knew it because there was that discomfort, that understanding that there just has to be more. All right, that's really good. In our conversation before today, and even about 2 to 3 times today, you have said that we are more than one thing, and we can't fully express this in or within our 9 to 5. So what did you really mean by that on the one hand? And I also want you to look at it from the point of view of side hustles, because there's this debate again around whether people can take on side hustles as they work or just be focused on what they're doing so that they can grow very quickly. So how do professionals then balance purpose, responsibility, and focus?
I'm glad you qualified that in terms of professionals who actually want that.
Yes.
Because I'm not going to assume, I won't sit here and assume that that's for everybody. It's not. There's some people who want to just do their 9 to 5, earn their money, take care of their families through that, invest in 1 or 2 things, and they're very okay. But there are some of us that believe very strongly that we are meant for more. From a purpose point of view, from a calling point of view, from believing that there's an assignment that we have that just lurks at the bottom of our belly, and we're not satisfied until we've actually done that. So I hear you about side hustles, and that's where it starts. And for some people who do side hustles for more income, why not? If not, that's where it starts as well. I am doing a 9 to 5, but I'm really great at frying plantain chips. Everybody wants to eat my plantain chips. So why not start doing that one? Packaging it well. Get somebody who can put your name and the list of what is it that we have at the back of products, the calories and the ingredients and stuff like that. Package it well. Why not? If not, if it brings you more income, as long as the 9 to 5 doesn't suffer. So you've got to be very disciplined with the level of freedom that you have. It has to come with responsibility, So it isn't, no one said that it is easy, but there are a lot of things to consider if you are going to walk that path. But you should, again, remember I said this earlier, taking a bet on yourself. Life is too short, Adeola, for you not to take a bet on yourself. So if you have, there are people who, let's be realistic, their 9 to 5 consumes them completely, and they have no time for any other thing. If you are the kind of person who knows you are built for more, you cannot be in a 9 to 5 for too long that consumes you. It consumes everything. But there's also that part where we make time for what is important. No matter what 9 to 5 consumes you, if it's your husband's birthday, you'll find a way. If your younger sister is getting married, you'll be there, you'll be involved, you will make time. So again, it is what you prioritize as what is important. So there's definitely a space, for you to be able to express yourself and build your side hustle if that's what you're meant to do.
But what I am taking away is that we all need to know ourselves. So it was good that you mentioned
self-awareness.
That there are some people who are just okay with their 9 to 5 and they don't want to do anything else. But there are some who believe that they are made for more, and definitely that 9 to 5 is more like putting them in a box, and they want to express themselves more. And it's okay to do that. And I think one thing that I would like to highlight as well, which you did highlight, is the fact that we need to ensure that whatever we're doing by the side is not impacting our 9 to 5. So discipline also comes in.
Completely.
A lot.
Completely.
Thanks a lot for that. And something very interesting about you and your reinvention is your social media presence. I have looked at your page, and you have grown that page to over 14K followers. Wow! Please tell us a bit about that. How did you even get into that social media space? Especially, leaders like ourselves sometimes find it quite difficult to get out there or put ourselves out there.
And I think you've put it aptly in terms of where to start. You want to be seen in a particular way. You want to be known for something. You want to build a brand. You want to pass on a message. How are you going to do it without being out there? So you've got to invest in learning how to be out there. Some people say, how do you do it? I'm like, do what? You get up there and speak and deliver your message. But guess what? It's not that simple. Oh, Adeola, there are days, weeks on end that I don't feel like doing anything. I don't feel like showing up. I don't feel like talking to anybody out there. I don't feel like being on social media. But guess what? It's what I signed up for. And how do I balance that? I get help. So the growth of that account, I cannot take credit for it alone. I have a team that's behind that, that's led by a really special lady who, believe it or not, she works for me, but she pushes me. She inspires me. And that's partly why she's on my team. It's because she has that tenacity such that when I am drained and things slow down for me, She's the one that can put out content without my showing my face. She's the one that puts out what we call B-rolls. You can just see me coming down an escalator. Or you see me eating.
She brings the ideas.
And then because we are totally aligned on the kind of audience I want to reach, the message that audience needs, the pain points of that audience. And what does she do? She then helps me to build content that, of course, we agree before it goes out that, okay, yeah, this is meant for your audience, blah, blah, blah. She's been with me for a few years now, so she kind of knows. And then proper planning and strategy, because we decided from the very beginning, in this month, during this quarter, this is the message we're putting out. And she'll tell me, she calls me Kochi. Kochi, this is how with our Kochi with an IE. The Kochi, this is what I need from you. Can you give me 5 different, can you batch 5 different reels? I'll be like, precious, please. I cannot give you 5. Today I'll give you 2, you know. But growing that has doing that consistently is my point, Adeola. Doing that consistently is what has grown the account, and you also been able to understand the algorithm of your platform. We had a really good post that did very well. If you go on the on Instagram at Coachivate, that's a particular reel I did that has over 700,000 views. Believe it or not, my daughter took that video of me stepping out of the house into the car. But this person, who is also a content expert, digital marketer, she cut it into maybe 10 seconds, put the message on it as agreed. I didn't know what message she was going to use for what, but she put the message on it and the thing just blew up. Wow. So you never know what will go viral, but you can be consistent. And you can trust that if you are consistent on certain platforms, that will happen. And I think I had a midwife for Coachivate very early. Somebody like Larry Olusola really helped me to see that being online, being out there, and using the digital space wisely, I beg your pardon, using it wisely was a good way to actually impact my business. And that was the route that I went through.
Yeah, thank you. And my takeaway is that you're saying to us that being visible online is good. It's good for your personal and professional brand. And there's therefore no need to be scared. I mean, it is tough. You didn't tell us that it's easy. You said to us there are times that you don't even feel like doing it, but we could get help. There's social media managers out there who can help us. They sometimes even kind of reverse mentors because a lot of them are younger people.
Completely.
So yeah, to that professional out there who's worried about visibility online, it is doable. She has been doing it and she has grown that page. It just requires being consistent and showing up, and you never know what's going to go viral. So I also know that you are a strengths coach. And you talk a lot about self-awareness. So for people who are even unable to identify what their strengths are, because you typically say that we should leverage our strengths, where do those kind of people even start from to begin to understand, what are the strengths that they can leverage?
Adeola, I chuckled because in the advent and in the days of technology today, that is so easy. Being a Gallup certified strengths coach means that we are able to apply instruments for you to get assessed and to actually go discover what your strengths are. So if you go to the Gallup page today online, and you even go to Google and you type in Clifton strengths, and you go on the Gallup site, you go to a page where it actually lets you pay a token. I don't think it's more than $25, $30 or something like that to get to know your top 5. Now, we strengths coaches actually use the word talent to get to know your talent, right? because that's what the report brings out. It brings out what you are naturally good at and what you bring to the table. What a strengths coach helps you to do is how do you apply that with time and proper practice that builds those talents into strengths. So the self-awareness is not just, oh, now I know, I've always felt it, I've always known it, but now I know that I can truly help people maximize their potential. Now this confirms that I can truly do that. As an example, okay, now we know what about it? How are you contributing that as a leader?
Yeah.
How are you showing up as being able to really transform things, transform products, transform programs, which you are naturally great at? How do you bring that into the organization? How do you bring it on the project? How do you, what we use with strengths coaching, we say, how do you aim it? How do you position it? How do you claim it? In terms of those talents and helping to transform them into strengths. That's actually what happens and that's where self-awareness starts. Is being able to know and apply and build the results that come from it. But self-awareness is everything. That's where it starts. So I was just going to say that if you want to know, go do the strengths assessment and look for a coach that actually helps you to interpret it and apply it going forward.
Yeah, and
Let's go.
I mean, I'm aware that there are free tools as well that leaders who want to know their strengths can also just easily access. Are there any examples that you can maybe share with us for people who want to access some free tools?
Believe it or not, I'm aware that so Gallup Strengths is one, MBTI is another, Myers-Briggs. I know there might be some Myers-Briggs assessments online that you can use that are free. There are also some simple manual motivational type assessments that help you to know what kind of what motivates you, as an individual, because many people, believe it or not, don't really know.
Yeah.
So that's one. And you know what? Good old practice and testing out what it is that you like and you don't like.
Exploration.
Absolutely. Adeola, if you do not explore, if you don't give yourself a chance, how do you know? So in terms of self-awareness and what you like, what you don't like, what you can do, give it a try. But at least okay, some things come naturally to you. Take note of it. Some other things, this isn't for me. Take note of it. And keep practicing, keep exploring.
Yeah. So there's the scientific and there's a non-scientific
Completely.
way. Non-scientific, just explore and begin to take note of, the things that drain your energy and the things that excite you. Okay, I think it's important to understand why is it even necessary for leaders to lead from their strength instead of survival? Is it that there are some shifts that you have noticed working with a lot of executives when they begin to lead from strengths?
Very interesting question. There's actually a book called Strengths Leadership, where it actually has testimonials, stories of results and transformation from leaders that have actually led from their strengths.
I think it's also important to just understand why leaders should lead from strengths instead of survival. Are there some shifts that you have noticed in your work with leaders, with executives, when they operate from their strengths versus survival?
Definitely, Adeola, definitely. I don't know if we have enough time in a podcast like this to actually just put everything on the table, but this is based on extensive research from Don Clifton, the father of positive psychology. And all he decided to do was, can we just see if focusing on people's strengths actually helps us to get more out of them, as opposed to having them focus on both their strengths and their weaknesses. And he found out that people were actually so much more productive. All of the insights, I'm just trying to summarize, all of the insights is actually on Gallup.com. Gallup they've got the rights and they own the rights to the Clifton Strengths report and the Clifton Strengths methodology today. And where people start to realize how they do things so much more naturally, and they focus on that rather than spending time on their weaknesses. So spending time on building their weaknesses into strengths, what happens is that they thrive at what it is that they are doing. Why? Because they are doing it naturally. It's no longer about survival. It's about just being able to produce results without stress.
All right, fantastic.
Without stress. That's really where it starts.
So there's a lot of evidence, and if you want to read, you can go to the Gallup website.
You can go to the Gallup website, and please just remind me after the podcast. I'll get you the full title of the Strengths Leadership book by Gallup that contains stories, evidence, testimonials of leaders who have led with their strengths and the sort of results that we're actually getting from them, so that you can add it to the caption for your audience.
Yeah, great. We'll do that. So we're getting to a very interesting part, a part that is really, really dear to me, and that's because my doctoral work is focused on self-care. You have worked a lot in very high pressure roles, very susceptible to stress and burnout. How did you navigate those seasons, and what does self-care look like for you now?
Very important question for today, because we believe self-care is selfish. Self-care is not selfish. Self-care is a strategic advantage. Because you cannot give what you don't have. And if you are delivering from an empty cup, you are running on fumes, you will eventually die. I'm not even mincing words. We're talking to adults in the room here. We're not talking to kids. And you will be replaced very easily. You will become a hashtag. That's the joke. That's the joke. Hashtag, oh, she was here. Hashtag, she slept in the last. So what does self-care mean to me?
What does it look like for you today?
Very easy question to answer. Very early on in my career, I suffered stress and burnout. The way that it appeared and it was apparent to me was when my doctor first diagnosed of me having stress-induced acne. I woke up one day and my face was full. I couldn't believe what I was seeing in the mirror. I knew I was burnt out at work. I knew I was struggling, juggling too many things, perhaps not saying no enough, and certainly not taking care of myself. It was all about work. And work was crazy in that season. And I remember going to see the doctor at the clinic that day. And when I heard stress-induced acne, I'm like, okay, yeah. So just give me calamine lotion and let's move on. And the first thing that particular doctor did at that time was, I think he wrote a note for me to take 2 weeks off or something like that. Everybody, including my boss, was wondering why for acne. What was for acne? Just go and tell them to give you. So I even have something at home now that you can use. But he knew what was going on, and he said, "You've got to get some rest." Needless to say that the kind of culture that I was in, again, Adeola, the context of culture, the kind of culture that I was in at the time did not support, preach, allow, or had processes and systems that enabled self-care. It wasn't long before I left that particular employer for those kind of reasons. The reasons were personal, but it was tied to this. So when I say it's a strategic advantage, if you do not take care of yourself, if you don't spend time knowing what works for you to be recharged, to be reset, it's going to be difficult to keep giving. So wellness as a philosophy, and it has to be again preached more and supported more in organizations, is a strategic advantage. It is something you and I need to do. And by the way, self-care is not just going to the spa.
Yeah.
That's just part of it. If spying works for you, spying works for me, but it goes beyond that. Self-care is being in the gym 3 times a week for me. Not because I want to lose weight, but because it helps me maintain my sanity. It helps me build stamina. It helps me realize that when I, as a grandmother, I start running around my grandkids one day, I won't be suffering some backache or some arthritis in the arthritis, Adeola, in the ankles because I didn't move my body. So you've got to think about your outcomes in terms of wellness and what helps you be stable and centered as a healthy individual. Because healthy for you may not be healthy for me. So all of this don't eat this, don't eat that. Okay, yeah, we know that some things that, but some things that you eat may have more of a negative effect for you than it does for me. And I'm not talking about the obvious things that we will all benefit from cutting off today. But self-care is really about maintaining the soul, the body, the spirit. That is so important.
I was almost jumping off my seat when you were talking about self-care because there were a few things that you were speaking about that really was touching the heart of what I'm researching. I'm looking at self-care as a strategic leadership capability. Moving self-care away from just wellness into the core management and leadership space. So that's exactly what I'm looking at.
Fantastic. So we'll talk then.
Absolutely. and something else that really struck me is the fact that self-care doesn't look the same for everyone. It is personalized, and it's very important that each individual finds out what works for them. So we're now getting into your impact on boards. I'm aware that you've been on a number of boards. You were previously Wimbies and now very active with Teach for Nigeria. And that leads me to asking about volunteering. How important is volunteering for people who really want to have meaningful careers? Because there are people who say, look, it's not that important. But in your view and from your journey, what would you say to people who are considering volunteering?
So, because you want to volunteer, let's start with that. Doesn't mean that you're going to find yourself on boards.
Okay.
So let's separate that. For one, everyone should volunteer because Adeola, everybody has something to give that your workplace may not necessarily. And if you are one of the few that your workplace is also a good place to volunteer and provide you the platform, by all means do that. So volunteering is on one hand where we give of ourselves, of our time, and we're giving back to serving humanity. Yeah? Volunteering on boards is a lot of where you see that perhaps is more in the social enterprise, not-for-profit, NGO organizations, which Teach for Nigeria, falls within that category. However, I didn't just raise my hand and say I want to volunteer. Someone also invited me, and that's the thing. What are you capable? What do people know you for? What's your brand? What have you put out there to say that you are capable of delivering, not adding alone? What are you capable of delivering? What value are you bringing to the table? Do people know that? So with that being out there, someone invited me then to say, okay, we need a board committee member to fill this role. Would you be interested? However, it's a volunteer position, right? So the board role was available, the board advisory role, I beg your pardon, was available. And so it's now up to you to say, okay, yeah, I'm ready to do that. But I don't mind doing it on a volunteer basis. So for me, the most important and over and above just being in a board advisory role, which I'm volunteering is the fact that it's serious work. It is organizational work, it is strategic work, it is tactical work. It is you being able to contribute what you know to a growing concern, and then making the organization, the part of the organization that you're also responsible for, productive, and of course, again, delivering results. So it is serious work, despite the status of the work.
Very interesting. And what I find very interesting that I want to highlight is track record. Very important that you have a good track record, because usually these opportunities come from somebody just knowing about your track record.
Yeah.
And so as we build careers, if we are looking at volunteering on boards, we need to be very aware that our track record is very important in terms of securing those type of opportunities. Okay, so there are professionals who at the moment maybe considering board opportunities. Is there a particular time that you think professionals should start thinking about board roles? Is it early career, towards the end of career? What we typically find is towards maybe mid to the end of career, people start to think about board roles. So that's on the one hand. At what point or what stage of career should professionals start thinking about board roles? And then secondly, why is it important? Why do we need to take up board opportunities?
We don't all need to take up board opportunities. To answer the second question first, Adeola, I think again it is in the direction that you want to take your career. And remember how we talked about the multipotentate individual who has a lot to give and therefore looks at board roles and as another expression and another opportunity and platform to deliver that. Having said that, to your first question, people tend to consider that in mid to senior level and even up to C-suite level. Why? The maturity is there, the knowledge is there, been there, done that, got a t-shirt, and that's what's required on boards, right?
Yeah.
We want the expert, but we want somebody who is comfortable in their own skin to the extent that they've had that organizational reach, that enterprise-wide opportunity and experience, and therefore we want to bring them to the board. So that tends to happen in senior level career, senior level experience. And yes, you should start to think about it at that point. But don't forget, boards also require time investment. They require commitment to a certain level. So you've got to really look at all of that well to say, okay, am I really ready to give to a board? Many boards meet no less than 3 to 4 times a year. Many of them do that face to face. I am blessed to be on a board where we meet virtually. However, if there was a requirement to meet in a certain country, for example, then you have to think about travel and things like that. So there's a lot to consider, but it's something that I will tell you I will highly recommend, because it for me it takes that fulfillment box as well in terms of being able to add value to other things.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I would like to highlight the fact that it is hard work. It is a lot of work. So if you are considering board opportunities, it's also good to know that yes, there will be influence and all that, but you should be ready to give a lot into it.
Right.
All right, so we are getting to the end of the podcast, and I have just one or two questions, just some reflections and words of wisdom.
Sure.
What would you say has been the most defining decision you've made in your career?
Oh, gosh. There have been many milestones and many defining moments, and hence defining decision. But the opportunity to use time off after a job loss to really reflect on the trajectory of my career has been one defining decision, where I then decided, you know what? First of all, I was going to apply for roles that were more senior than the role that I had. And by the way, I wasn't sacked or anything like that. It wasn't for performance, I had to, I was let go during the restructuring. And I reflected a lot on how leaders did not manage transition well, and how they did not show up well because they were not doing the right things to show up well, to instill confidence. And in deciding on that career trajectory, I went back to work, but deciding that I wanted to coach more. I decided I didn't want to just be the average 9-to-5er. I started to then invest in myself, that there was more. Thankfully, I had an organization that put some weight behind that. Doing a Cranfield MSc, developing myself, doing a certified executive coaching course. I didn't know at that time that I would take that in that trajectory, but it was on the table. And thankfully, I had organizations that invested in me. However, when I decided to take it further, the second part of that decision was investing in myself. Choosing to invest in myself because of where I wanted my career to go. Those two. So it's like one answer, but having an A and a B part, right? That has been a really, really defining.
And that was powerful, because what I see is where you have taken a situation that was meant to be a setback and really turned it into an opportunity. You used that time to map out the future of your career. And I would say to anybody out there who's probably experiencing now what you experienced then, maybe a restructuring that has impacted you, it could really be a defining moment where you would use it to map out the future of your career, just as she did. That was really, really powerful.
Thank you.
So on a final note, if there's a professional out there who is stuck at the moment, right, but knows that they are made for more, what would you say to that person?
I would say, sit down, allow yourself to think, and start building your roadmap to taking you to that destination. Why am I saying that? Many of us know where we want to go. That's the truth. For some of us, it burns in our belly. We can't articulate it. For those ones, they should call me and give me. They should give me a call, because the lack of clarity is a waste of time. So they should give me a call and let's help clarify that. However, for those that know where they want to go, they just don't know how to get there. Then you should really sit down and start to map what that actually starts to look like for you, and what you need to do to get to that destination. Start by being real with yourself, asking yourself certain questions. and building that. In building that roadmap, where's your mindset? Are you really that self-aware? What are you bringing to the table? What are your strengths? What are people going to use about you? What's your executive brand today? How are you doing in terms of presence? How are you going to pivot to that next best thing? And again, how are you going to make money? If that is part of your own, and for us, but by the way, it's not just money. How will you profit? That's the way I like to put it. I told you about the program that I was thinking about very seriously for 2026. We're bringing people who really want to leave their 9-to-5 corporate jobs, and they know that they are meant for more, but they don't know how to get there, and really helping them to map that path. They might not be ready to leave now. Maybe they're the sole breadwinner, maybe they're paying mortgage, maybe they're the ones responsible for the children's school fees. They don't need to leave now, but at least that map is there, and they can service that burn and that yearn, to do more. So get people around you that will help you to do that, that will help you build that roadmap for how you can profit. Profit doesn't necessarily mean about money. It can be for you flexibility. For some, it's about freedom. For some, it's about impact. But at least you have that roadmap that then starts to help you to see and explore how you can profit. So start with your mindset. What about your level of awareness? And how do people perceive you in terms of your presence? How are you positioning yourself for that destination? How are you going to profit from it?
Well, something you said as you started was think. And that's something that a lot of us don't stop to do in this noisy world. So if you are stuck, it's most likely because you're not thinking, and you might need help. You might need a coach to help you, and we have Coach Efe here. So if people wanted to reach you for coaching, how can they get to you?
Fantastic question. So I'm on Instagram, Adeola. So at Coachivate. Coachivate is spelled Coach Vate, Vate, Coachivate. So please go and follow on Instagram, and the link in the bio. There's a link in the bio that takes you to being able to book some time, a complimentary time with me in terms of let's have a chat and let's see what outcomes you really want from coaching and getting your clarity. And then we can actually take it from there.
We have finally come to the end of the podcast today. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation with you.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you for sharing so generously. I believe that a lot of professionals will learn a lot from this particular edition. If you've enjoyed today's podcast, kindly like and subscribe so that more people can get access to these rich nuggets, and follow us at Career Pathways with Adeola Kagho on Instagram. Till next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.